Hey everybody, welcome to the Homestead. This is our first behind-the-scenes patron-only video. I'm going to upload this to the patron site first, and then after about a week or so, I'll upload it to YouTube so people on YouTube can see it. But the patrons get special videos ahead of time sometimes because they're patrons. And so I want to show you guys, give you a behind-the-scenes look at what we're doing this fall in the greenhouse. It's fall, it's middle of November, and I want to go ahead and just give you a rundown on what we're doing here. And I'm getting ready to yank up a lot of plants. I'm going to harvest the rest of these peppers. These are some spicy and some sweet peppers here. I'm going to harvest some of those. I'm going to rip them out. I may keep a few to see if they're over winter. If you don't know, pepper plants will come up year after year if you can keep them alive. And last year was unsuccessful. I'm going to try this year to be a little more successful in what I do with the pepper plants, to see if I can overwinter a couple. We'll see what happens. I don't know. These basil plants will be harvested and gotten rid of today, and some other things. But you can see here I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up for the fall. This is all kale. We love green kale, and so we'll be eating this during the winter time. And last year we had great success at growing kale in here and eating on it all winter long. We love our greens in the winter time. Here's some more kale. There's some more kale. Some more kale. I got a bunch of wood sorrel that got in here. I got to yank this up. Here's a bok choy that was survived from last year, but still a lot more kale and some. This is some spinach that's coming up now. More spinach coming up. A lot more kale, and again, a lot of wood sorrel got in here. I got to yank all that up. And so I'm out here today working on all of this. This is our. I know it's kind of loud in here because of the water flowing in the aquaponics system, but this is our fig tree. And it's doing pretty good. This was given to us by Travis Huey at myaquafarm.com. Look them up if you can. A great bunch of folks. And this is our fig tree. It's got one little fig on it right there. And we're going to see what this produces next year. I think it's going to do really well inside the greenhouse. So it looks like it's doing pretty good. Anyway, what else we got going on here? So this is all kale. Over here we have a bunch of cabbage that's coming up, and what I did last year worked really well. I started growing it in the fall and it's popping up, and it grows real slow in the winter time. By about spring, these will be big enough to be able to transplant out in the garden, and we got really good growth last year out of our cabbages by growing them in here, starting them in here in the greenhouse in the aquaponics system, and then transporting them out, transplanting them out into the garden about springtime. So we're going to try that again. We're going to have a couple beds of cabbage that we can transplant out there for the spring. Over here we have our strawberries. They're going real well. These are for next spring. I actually have strawberries coming in right now. See that? And there's some more. There's some buds here and there. There's some more buds right there. I don't know how many we're going to get, but it's warm enough that they're actually putting out strawberries in the fall. These are everbearing. I think they're the Ozark variety. And so doing pretty well. I tried to transplant a bunch in this top, and they're kind of going, but some of them are having some difficulty. But these two middle rows are doing really well of strawberries. This is our pomegranate tree. Still got a couple years before we can harvest fruit on that. I think it's in its third year. This last spring I picked all the pomegranates off of it and let it develop its root system down there, and so it had some pretty good growth on it this year. So we're gonna keep pruning this back so it grows right here in this area. This is a miniature, so it'll only get about the size of the ceiling or whatever, and then it'll stop growing. That's as tall as it'll get, but it's got a couple years left before we can really enjoy the fruit off of it. So that's kind of what's going on right now. The fish, let me show you what I got going on here. People always ask about the fish, and there's bluegill in these tanks. They're hybrid bluegill for the most part. There's some regular bluegill in here too, and some of them are just getting ready to be about eating size. Some of these two tanks here, I could actually probably start eating some of them now, and if I get a hankering this winter, I may harvest a few. But probably in the spring, we'll probably do our first fish harvest, and we'll keep you updated on all of that. But I'm excited to finally get some fish. This tank right here, actually, this is the fish that the tank that was empty because we had a fish kill off last year, and right now we just have goldfish and crayfish in there to produce the nutrients needed for these grow beds here. But we'll put some bluegill in here next spring and start a new batch of bluegill in this tank at some point. And then it's getting cold, so there's a stove back there, a wood barrel stove. And that barrel stove, I'll probably start firing that up probably this week. It's going to get cold enough to where I'm going to need to keep some heat in here. And that does an amazing job of keeping the greenhouse warm when it's, you know, it gets down in the 20s and 30s. And so it just helps take the edge off and keep the pipes from freezing that we have in here, keep the water from freezing. But, you know, the water that's in here, water is the best thermal mass you can have. And so right now it's pretty hot in here, even though it's cold outside, but it's pretty hot in here right now. And so that thermal mass is retained, that heat is retained by the rocks and the water. And so it does a pretty good job anyway of retaining heat inside this greenhouse, simply because of the rocks and the water. But that wood barrel stove takes the edge off when it's needed, and so we definitely use that. It definitely puts a good amount of heat out, and I can load that up with wood and then keep it running all night long just by loading up that wood stove. And by the time I get out in the morning, there's still a lot of coals in there that I can keep the fire going if I have to. And let's see, what else is going on here? I got onions still. These are the onions I harvested last spring. I did a video on that, and they're coming back. I took the tops off those onions and put them back, and so they're going again. So by next spring, these will be ready to harvest again. They're kind of dying back a little bit here, but that's okay. They'll be good, these little leaves here. But they'll be good for next spring, and they'll be putting off new shoots, which we'll, again, replant in the spring. And so we'll get a good amount of onions, and they're growing everywhere. All kinds of onions. We love the onions. So, and these pepper plants, like I said, we'll be taking these out here shortly. So anyway, that's what we're doing in the greenhouse. The garden is, I still got the achachas, tons of achachas out here, and we'll be sending seeds to all of our patrons. We'll be sending achacha seeds. We'll be sending some basil seeds to our patrons. Also, the popolo is kind of dying back now, and it's completely finished, but it's now starting to put off the seed. And also, we'll be sending patrons some of this seed for popolo. Guys, if you're out there and you like cilantro, this is an amazing substitute that grows all summer long, whereas the cilantro will bolt and the popolo just keeps on going. And these got to about, I don't know, 6-7 foot tall, some of these plants, before they fell over from the cold. But they're putting off seed now from the seed pods, and we're going to be saving the seed and sending it to our patrons. And we really appreciate the patrons who help support the channel. And so we try to send them things throughout the year. We're going to be sending them, you know, it's a 3-month minimum at the highest level. And if you stick with us that long, we'll start sending you gifts from the homestead. Some smoked salt, some maple syrup if we have a good harvest of that, and as well as seeds and other things that we procure here on the homestead that you can enjoy. All right, thanks to the patrons. This is a patron video. We'll release this on the patron site first, and then we'll release it on YouTube about a week or so later. All right, we'll see you next time on American Homestead. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button below the video. It really means a lot to us. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Now you can support An American Homestead by becoming a patron. Visit patreon.com/An American Homestead to see all the benefits of becoming a patron of our channel. You'll get access to private videos, pictures, and even live question and answer sessions that you can participate in. Some patrons will even receive free gifts throughout the year from the homestead. Visit patreon.com/An American Homestead to check it out and see the rewards of supporting our channel.